Yo, well, here's a funky introduction of how nice I am. Check it out, y'all. Got the Tribe Called Quest shirt, Tribe Called Quest face mask. It's Tribe Called Quest Day, September 24th, 2021. This album was released September 24th, 1991. So, turns 30. Shout out to Jerobi, Ali Shaheed Muhammad. Rest in peace to Fife Diggity Dog. And shout out to my boy Q-Tip, man. This is a hip-hop masterpiece. Oh, I cracked it a little bit. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. I walked 5 miles to get this cassette. I went to Record Town on East Main back in 1991. I'll never forget. I was about 11 years old. And, you know, we were coming off of a hot summer. That summer we had Niggas for Life that dominated the streets. And then we had the Ghetto Boys, We Can't Be Stopped, which also dominated the streets in 1991. And you had a bunch of other underground hip-hop classics like Main Source, Breaking Atoms. That was another one that dominated the streets. But when Tribe Called Quest came out with the Low End Theory, that album just, this album just, I thought it was the end of the world. I didn't think it was going to get any better. I didn't think anything could top this at the time. And it took about 14 months for another hip-hop album to come out and top this. And no, it wasn't Apocalypse 91. Apocalypse 91 came out maybe like a week or two after this. And it was up there, but nothing, it didn't top it. Nothing quite topped this. The only album that topped this came out in December of 1992, and that was Dr. Dre's The Chronic. I'm sorry. You can agree or disagree. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but that's just my opinion. Dr. Dre, The Chronic album is the only album that topped this. And, you know, a lot of people say, no, Public Enemy, Apocalypse 91 was better. It was up there, but it wasn't greater than, you know what I mean? It was up there. It was about equal, you know, but it wasn't better. You know what I'm saying? But, I'm not going to go through the whole album. I'm not going to go through all the songs. I'm going to just go through some of my favorite songs. Okay, you had Excursions. When I put it in the tape, the song came on, the first song was Excursions. It didn't have no intro or anything. All you heard was doom 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 doom. Back in the days when I was a teenager, before I had status, before I had a pager. You can catch the abstract. Listen in the hip hop. My pops used to say that it reminded him of bebop. I'm like, oh shit. And then the bass just come in doom 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 doom. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, yo, I'm like, oh man, just that one song, and I knew. The first song, you usually could tell when the album is going to be fire by the first song. You know what I mean? And then you have Bugging Out. They had a video for it. It was half of We Got the Jazz. You know? You watch We Got the Jazz and then Bugging Out to come in. They had those egg things over their eyes. It was classic. And then you had Rap Promoter, another one of my favorite songs. It was talking about whack rap promoters. Then you had Butter by Phife Dawg. That was his solo song. And I thought Phife, to be honest with you, on the first album, I thought he was weak. I thought he was whack. But then again, he was only on a few tracks. You know what I mean? But we were very critical back then. You know, you had to be hard. You know what I mean? You had to have skills. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I believe Phife Dawg was slept on the first album. People didn't give him a chance, maybe because he wasn't on enough songs. But when this album came out, the first track was Check the Rhyme. And Phife was like, here's a funky introduction of how nice I am. And I'm like, okay, dude, you know, you was weak on the last album. How nice are you? He said, tell your mother, tell your father, send a telegram. I'm like an energizer because you see I last long. My crew is never ever whack because we stand strong. Now if you say my style is whack, I'm like, yeah, I said your style was whack. He said, that's when you get dead wrong. I say that body and El Segundo didn't push it along. I'm like, oh, okay. You'll be a fool to reply that Phife is not the man because you know, and I know that you know who I am. I'm like, oh, this kid is nice. I'm like, oh, and then that beat was so smooth. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, all right, I can deal with this. All right, Phife, you proved me wrong. And I was wrong ever since. Rest in peace to Phife Diggity Dog. You know? And then you had Verses from the Abstract, another one of my favorite tracks. Love the jazz beat. And then you had Show Business, which was produced by Skef Anselm. Then we had, let me see, the infamous Date Rape That title was self-explanatory. Check the rhyme, like I just said. Everything is fair when you're living in the city. Another classic sample. And then we got the jazz, like I said, which was the video, and then it went into the bugging out video. And then you had Sky Pager. They was talking about pagers. Now, cell phones took over. People don't realize how big Sky Pagers was back in the days, or beepers, or pagers, whatever y'all used to call them. Some people just called them beepers, but a lot of millennials and Gen Zs don't know what the hell a beeper or a Sky Pager is, and they probably don't even care. But anyway, then you had What to the What to the What. That song was just about, it was another Q-Tip song by itself. He was just asking questions. What is sex when you have 3 people? What are wars if they ain't there and equal? You know what I mean? Then the last song, it was a posse cut called Scenario. Now, that was a computer-generated, computer-moderated hip-hop video. That was the first of its kind. That was the first computer moderated video I had ever seen. You know, and back in the days, people were saying that computers was going to take over, and we were like, how? You know, as expensive as they were, we didn't understand it. But now we get it. It was the internet that took over, that ruled the world, you know, because people used to say, oh yeah, computers are going to run the world. I'm like, how? It's the internet. You know, they didn't say internet, they just said computers. But anyways, we see what they talking about now. Shout out to all my 70s and 80s babies. We up in here heavy. Check it out. Now, they had a remix to the Scenario, and just like the original, it featured leaders of the new school, and it also featured MC named Hood. He was one of Q-Tip homeboys, but from what I understand, shortly after the release, Hood was murdered. That's why we never heard anything from him. So rest in peace to him. I didn't know that until recently. I was wondering why we never heard more from him. You know, major rest in peace to Phife Dawg and Hood, man. I mean, oh man, and shout out to Jerobi. I think Jerobi left. I didn't know Jerobi wasn't on this album until months later. Like I didn't realize he didn't have anything to do with it until like 6 months later when I saw the CD. When I saw the actual CD, I was like, man, Jerobi ain't on here. You know, he wasn't in the videos either. I thought maybe he just didn't want to be in the video. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait a minute. Well, I never knew why. It took years for me to find out why he wasn't a part of the group. You know, I guess he left for personal reasons. I don't know. But then he came back. He came back years later. You know, a lot of rappers would leave the music business once they found out how corrupt it was. You know, how I shouldn't say corrupt. I would say how, you know, phony it is, you know? And Q-Tip coined the phrase that a lot of people would never forget. He, on this album, on Check the Rhyme, he said, industry rule number 4080, record company people are shady. That is a legendary phrase. People watch it